Welcome to my tower, Master Chief. It is where you will be broken.
Thing is, I like Halo. Like a lot. I love the backstory, I love the lore, I love how grounded it is, when it wants to be. It's like a dark version of sci-fi that makes me all giddy inside whenever I get in the writing mood. Especially the books, to a point. Then I get to play the games. Halo Infinite was released a few weeks ago, and I streamed the whole damn thing. 17 hours later, I told my friend Cameron about it, and he suggested I write this review. So guess who's writing a review? Anyway, let's get started. And warning, I have to spoil the intro to get this review started, so if you don't want the opening story, then play the game first. Anyway, Halo Infinite takes place after the events of Halo 5 Guardians, of which I did not play, but I know Cortana evil, Locke gets his groin kicked in a bunch, and Chief is a beta bitch signed lied in this game. This culmination of events leads to Supercarrier Infinity from the 4th game to Installation 07, or Zeta Halo, where the Infinity gets blown the fuck up by the Banished. The Banished? Who are they, you may ask? Well, they're the Discount Covenant, but instead of religious genocidal fanatics, they're those who broke off from the Covenant after being told to go suck rocks and form their own faction. How would you know this? You wouldn't, unless you played Halo Wars 2, a Halo strategy game. I wonder how many played that. Chief fights Atriox, the de facto leader of the Banished in the Infinity, and gets his shit kicked in, where he is found 6 months later by a pilot who is stranded in a Pelican in orbit of Halo. He saves the Chief, where we find out the ring is damaged, everyone is dead, and that the Banished have the undisputed control of the ring until Chief asks for a weapon.
I need a weapon.
From there, we spend the first 2 levels getting used to the controls before being released into the open world of Zeta Halo, with a general idea of where to go and what to do. But the world is your oyster. The gameplay is, well, it's Halo. Aside from general quality of life changes, it hasn't changed all too much. Chief being a powerhouse who mows down waves of aliens with whatever weapons he can get his hands on, ranging from UNSC weapons to Covenant weapons. Even some unique weapons from assassination targets around the ring. Speaking of the gameplay loop, you have 4 different types of activities on the ring. Fob liberation, saving UNSC squads, destroying banished bases, and high-value targets. There are also audio logs, skulls, upgrades to your armor, and skins you can get from multiplayer scattered throughout the world. There are ammo containers for various weapons that can refill the current weapon equipped, making it much more viable than before. As you go about the game, you'll get unique armor abilities you can switch to at will. You'll start with a grappling hook, then obtain a scanner which can identify within a radius, thrusters for added mobility, and a drop shield to block incoming damage, all of which can be upgraded. Completing these side missions, and even some main missions, will earn a passive resource called Valor, which can net you Marine fire teams, weapons, and vehicles over time to help assist you through the traversal. Which means, in theory and practice, you can have a Marine fire team equipped with tracking rockets and a Razorback, and murder everything. The main priority is completing the main missions, with secondary acting as content to either improve your overall game or net you better weapons. One of my standout moments was assisting a squad with my own, in a Rocket Hog. The vehicles themselves are fairly versatile. The classic Mongoose and Warthog, with specialized variants for both. The Scorpion returns, and it slaps. Yeah, son. A new addition is the Wasp, which is a light aircraft frame, trading armor for mobility, which, while I was initially excited to get it, I reverted back to ground vehicles eventually, especially after being knocked out of the sky by EMP weapons so many goddamn times.
That's Riven Gate. The Banished stranded a lot of our people in enemy territory when they built it, and it's held ever since.
Your enemy variety has changed a bit. You have your standard assortment of grunts, jackals, skirmishers, elites, and brutes, with a few varieties to spice it up here and there. Grunts with shields, berserker brutes, and of course, the dreaded jackal snipers have returned. Hunters make a return and are frickin' scary. Treated more as a genuine threat this time, with heavier firepower needed to make even a dent in them. Skimmers are a new enemy that show about halfway through the game and are sort of reminiscent of the drones from 2 and 3, though less swarmy than their bug brethren. And these are all scattered throughout the world of Zeta Halo. Making a welcome return is the addition of bosses that are different banished lieutenants who occupy different parts of the ring. Only one in particular stood out as difficult to me, even playing on normal. The others being plenty of characters to them, and they do fit within the world of Halo.
Escherum's orders are that you should be brought before him. He did not specify in how many pieces.
I'm gonna make you regret your words.
Elites are no longer jacked, beefy versions of themselves, but return as honorable warriors. While I won't spoil them in this section, they do miss in some regard, and I feel they could be a bit more expanded upon. They're basically bullet spongy, and according to other reviewers, are even worse on higher difficulties. The open world itself is admittedly a bit bland compared to Combat Evolved, or any other Halo for that matter, being either temperate forest areas and mountains or Forerunner structure, which at first was appealing, but it dragged on the longer it went on. The original game had those two, plus a desert plateau, a swamp, snowy valley, even a UNSC cruiser. So much potential to include in the maps was missed and relegated to multiplayer. An open world with fast travel points to various regions would have been spectacular, but the game already has issues on its own. One of my biggest fears would be that the music was bad. Halo was known for spectacular music from the legend himself, Martin O'Donnell. Given that he set the standard for which Halo is judged upon, I was a tad bit worried that the new composers wouldn't be able to match the awe and wonder that the Halo series inspires in me. I can safely say that I'm wrong on that account, and the new composers definitely, while not Marty, bring their own twist into Halo that puts a smile on my face, including the one you're listening to, which is one of my favorite tracks, Tower by Gareth Coker. I took a look at each of the artists' history. It seems Gareth is leading the charge, though Curtis Schweitzer, I believe I'm saying that correctly, composed the Zeta Halo menu music, which is an astounding track, while Joel Korlitz brings back more of the nostalgic feeling with Through the Trees. Take a listen and judge for yourself. While it doesn't have the best of Marty, the soundtrack itself definitely holds itself to a higher standard with it, and it wouldn't be the same without it. However, this game is far from perfect. The game was touted as the second mission of Halo, extended to an entire game. And while it works in concept, it definitely feels hurt by the execution. As mentioned before, this game is bland in presentation after a few missions. It makes you want to see more of the ring than just Forerunner structures and temperate forest. Aside from skull and audio log hunting, there is hardly any incentive to explore Zeta Halo itself. The missions are repetitive in nature. Either you rescue Marines being held captive, or you immerse yourself in a brief firefight. The assassination targets are just enemies with a little more health and shields. Fob liberation feels underwhelming and only serves to act as a fast travel point to resupply. Base destruction is just that, given a list of objectives to handle and the base is eliminated off the map permanently. I would preface that Marines are one of the better aspects that add a lot more levity and dialogue to the game, but they aren't the main focus. There are no other ODSTs, there are no command staff, there's no engineers, civilian techs that are scattered about. I would love to see an inclusion of Alpha Base, and similar to the first game, in the books at least, where you have a tug-of-war mechanic between the FOBs with the main base acting as a safe zone. The main missions themselves are hardly of any variety as well, aside from a handful that add more to the story. Speaking of, there's a point in the game where you're locked in a 4-hour endgame section with no rhyme or warning to it. No message stating that if you have anything to finish up, now's the time to do it. Instead, you're locked into the section with no such message and are stuck till the end of the game, where you're eventually transported back to the open world. Why? Why would you make a section like that and not include a message of any kind? It It's genuinely frustrating after doing so much with no chance to resupply aside from battlefield pickups along the way. There is also no chapter or mission select, meaning if you miss something, there's no going back and getting it without restarting the story. The story is definitely a different topic entirely to tackle. It does harken quite a bit back to the original CE storyline, while also referencing Guardians as well. And since there's no avoiding it, yes, you do get a Cortana lookalike back and the pilot who rescued you as primary characters, tagging along with Master Chief, using the one-man army aspect to take back the ring and beat back the Banished. The story leads you to believe that the leader of the Banished, now Escharum, is looking to rebuild the ring, and while that is the case, there is more to the story that adds and possibly retcons the lore. I can't speak much more without spoilers, so go to here if you wish to avoid them. As you're beating back the Banished, one question always laid in my mind. What the hell happened to Atriox? He's introduced in the opening cutscene of the game before he vanishes and was replaced by a discount MC Escher, everyone claiming that he was killed but are upholding his legacy. It turns out he encountered the rogue AI Cortana before the game started and was apparently trapped below in the Forerunner structures before the AI Chief uses in the game is deployed to stop and kill Cortana. But it turns out the fake Cortana is a copy of the real one without all the psycho tendencies. And that there is a third party called the Harbinger involved that wants to release a race called the Endless, of which the monitors of the installation are terrified of being released, but it isn't explained exactly why. I was suspecting the Flood to return, and there is an Easter egg for such an occasion, but apparently the Endless are worse. I don't know how the Endless are more of a threat than the galaxy-ending parasite which the Forerunners built super weapons to contain, though the running theory is that the Endless are immune to both the Flood and the Rings, but are never mentioned in any aspect outside of Infinite, which begs the question of where they were and why no one ever thought of mentioning it. The pilot, who's been ferrying you around, turns out stole the Pelican when the Banished attacked and is being hitched along to fight the Banished with the Chief. All the lieutenants are beaten back, and you fight the Monitor not once, but twice as he realizes, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Chief tries to delete Cortana at one point, but can't, as she has a pouty face about it, before the pilot is captured and is brought to the House of Reckoning, or the House of Pain as I refer to it. You kill Escharum, the Harbinger, and escape to the ring once more, and that's pretty much it. Aside from beating back the Banished and the threat the Harbinger poses, that's about it. And while I like the concept, I feel that it's a repeat of Combat Evolved in some aspects. I like the story missions contained as story missions, but the open world definitely drags it down because of it. While I definitely do enjoy the overall gameplay loop, I feel the open world aspect does drag it down a bit and makes it hard to be invested in the overall conflict that the game presents. It doesn't have the conflict scale of 3 or Reach, nor the personable story that 2 gave, or the intrigue that 1 presented. The game doesn't feel complete to me, and feels that a few more months of polish could be used to add in more. I've heard rumors of story DLC being made to supplement the main story, but I won't know unless we get an official announcement. Do I like this game? Yes. Is it worth $60? No. Definitely wait for it to go on discount before you buy it. You get a better deal from the MCC on Steam than you will playing this. Stay tuned. Next review will be there. Till then, take care.